Molly asked. Yes. Sarah disconnected the call, noticing the young girl was shivering. She'll be here in a minute. Stay here and... I'm coming with you. No, please. Stay with Nat and your mum. It struck her then that Molly hadn't told her what had happened, but there was no time for that now. She had to get to her daughter. She left the door on the latch and ran towards the road. She met Lucy at the pavement. Go, Lucy said, rushing past her, and call me as soon as you know. Sarah ran towards the path that led to the main road. She could hear Molly behind her, found no comfort in it. All she wanted was to see Erin. The path was well lit as she raced along it. On the ground ahead, near to the grass, she spotted a shadow. As she drew level, she saw it was Erin and dropped to her knees. Erin, love, what's happened? But Erin didn't respond. Her eyes were glazed over, her skin pale. If it weren't for the blood, Sarah would have said she'd taken some kind of drug. There was so much of it, dark red seeping through her jacket and onto the tarmac. She wiped a hand across Erin's forehead, crying out when her daughter still didn't respond. Instinctively, she pulled her into her arms and fumbled to get her phone out of her jacket pocket. Ambulance, please. My daughter, she's unconscious and covered in blood. She gave the details required, all the time cradling her child, trying not to notice how cold she was, not to see the blood on the tarmac in the light of the lamp. By her side, she could hear Molly's snuffles, but she couldn't take her eyes off Erin. It's okay, she whispered as she stroked Erin's hair. Help will be here soon. I'll keep you warm and safe until then. You just stay with me. Do you hear? Chapter 2. Detective Sergeant Grace Allendale was sitting on the settee when her mobile rang. At first, she thought it might be Tegan calling for a lift. Simon had collected his daughter from college, and the three of them had eaten dinner together before he dropped her off at her friend's house for a couple of hours. As it was half-term, Tegan was staying with them and going into work with Simon as she wanted an insight into the running of a newspaper. She was taking a course in media at Stoke-on-Trent College, hoping to be a journalist like her dad once she'd finished university. But it wasn't Tegan on the phone. It was Grace's DI, Ali Shenton. There's been a mugging, Ali said. A young woman, 16, has been stabbed in a walkway off Sampson Street, Badley Green. I'm heading up a team. Can you join us to liaise with the family? Yes, of course. I'm on my way. Grace disconnected the call and got straight to her feet, Simon looking over at her sudden movement. She knew his journalistic senses would already be activated. Last month he'd been promoted to crime editor of Stoke News after his boss had retired. Grace had never got on with Phil Thurston. He'd always tried to get one over on her, especially when he'd heard of her relationship to the notorious Steele family. What's happened? Simon asked. A mugging resulting in a stabbing. Female. Teenager. Grace told him all she could as she pulled on her boots and coat. She grabbed her keys, adrenaline pumping through her. Say goodnight to Tegan for me. I'm sure this is going to be a late one. Will do. And Grace? She was already at the front door, but stopped to wait for him to join her. He kissed her. Be careful. I'm always vigilant, but thanks. She gave him a faint smile. Last month, an officer from their station had been killed in the line of duty. PC David Cunningham had been attending a burglary when he was attacked by one of 3 men who had gone out with intent. A fatal blow to his head had put him in a coma, and all machines were switched off a week later, when there was still no sign of life after tests had been carried out. His killer, a 16-year-old, had been remanded into youth custody, but that didn't alter the fact of the matter. An officer hadn't gone home at the end of his shift. It had affected them all deeply. When it was one of your own, someone who you saw on a regular basis, it hit you hard. Dave had been a practical joker, always up to something to make the days go by with a smile. He was compassionate and a good officer too, liked by a lot of people out on the streets of Stoke-on-Trent. Grace gave Simon a hug. I'm going to ring Tegan, tell her to go straight home to her mum, he said. So you can come to the scene of the crime. Grace knew he would be concerned for his daughter's safety, but equally he'd want to report the case as it happened. Well, She pressed a finger.